Okay, I'm a few minutes early. I don't know if anybody's watching just yet. Hi, Scrap Chick. Thanks for joining. Hey, Janet. Is Scrap Chick Colleen? Janet? I'm still learning everybody's names. Great. Okay. Thanks for joining. I don't know if I should wait a few minutes to get started. I was just trying to check my settings. What do you think? Eileen? Okay, very good, Colleen. I'll wait. I will definitely have to tune in. I think I may have caught some of her replays, but I don't think I've caught Colleen live. When do you tend to stream, Colleen? My name is April. I guess I'm the person behind A Little Creative. Oh, Gail, thanks for coming. And Janet, thanks for mentioning it to her. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came up with my name. I don't know if any of you caught the stream that I did with Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter. And if you could tell that I was quite a bit shorter than Lindsay, she kept trying to change the direction of the video and have me stand a certain place, but it was kind of hopeless. I'm using the word creative both as an adjective and a noun because I am quite little at only 4'9". So, oh, that April, yeah, that's me. Colleen, are you planning on streaming tonight? Okay, I probably won't be here super long just because I am learning. But last night I streamed for an hour and that felt pretty good. Trickerhead skills. Hey, Joyce. Wow, this is so much fun. Yesterday when I streamed, I was thrilled to get 2 people chatting with me. It was super fun and really a good way to sort of get my sea legs, as it were. But now I see quite a few of you. Oh, well, it might be comedy, Gail. You never know. Okay, I'll try to do that. I don't even know how it got to comedy, so I'll see what I can do to fix that. Hi, Gillian. Or do you say Jillian? Kia. Okay. So I don't know if any of you caught the replay of what I did yesterday, but basically what I've been doing is showing how I swatch my Renaissance paints. And this is my entire collection of Renaissance paints. And you can see that all of the palettes lock together so that it's one, it's just all one kind of big palette. They click into place actually, which I didn't know, but you can hear it. See that? So it clicks. And so I have my pan sets here, and I'm able to I took the rail out, and so I've been able to fit 55 pans in this one. Let me scooch it up. In this one set. Let me just take this out. So these are the pan sets, and I was able to get 55 colors. And I swatched it here. Everything is backwards. So this is my little palette swatch, and I've made a little laminated sleeve that this comes in and out for my swatch set. And so that way it doesn't get damaged by water. Hey, Galina. Thanks for joining. These are the Polish watercolors. That's right. They're called Renesans watercolors, and they come in two different styles. One is the half pan set, and then the other, which we just launched, are the tubes. And the tubes, there are 54 half pans. In the tubes, there are 70 different colors. So I've taken two palettes, and you can see they just completely, well, you can't see because I'm not in frame, but they lock into place. So I've taken this second, well, there's 24 palette, and then I've taken the third row and just put magnets on. And then I have these swatches for those. So last night we did this first palette, and we were able to swatch it. And so tonight we're going to focus on the earth tones and the greens. So I'm going to get that out of the way. And I wanted to just show you really quickly this template that I designed and cut with my Cricut. Thanks, Colleen. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where you sort of cobble together a lot of different ideas. I first saw CeCee's video where she talked about using that plastic sheet to protect her swatch card. And then I was on some planner video person YouTube, and they were talking about how to make pockets with the laminate with a laminator. And basically I'll try to link that in the show notes, but basically what you do is you take 4 pieces of laminate and you put them, I don't know how to describe it. You basically seal each side, but not the middle. And I'm butchering that and not very eloquent about it, but the video made a lot of sense. And so basically what you're doing is you're taking the parts that fuse and putting those together where you want them. So that's how I kind of came up with this, was just sort of cobbling that together. And then with the template that I made, I talked about this yesterday. I was in Poland and I saw a ruler that had just little squares cut out of it. And I thought I wanted to get that for swatching. But then when I got my Silhouette and my Cricut, I've tried both. The Cricut kind of gives me fits, but when I worked on that, I was able to get a set of 48 squares in a swatch, and then that fits right in in the lid of the palette, and they're the same size as the actual half pans. I don't know if you can see that. Does that make sense? 2 rows, 12 each. I will be adding this to my shop. I don't know if I will add the SVG file or if I'll just add, have them cut and have the finished item. You guys can maybe let me know what you think would be helpful. So that's that. And then, so what I've done here is I've just taken the template and I've added 2 more rows. So I started here, and then to get the other ones, I just shifted this down and was able to draw the other 2 rows. So you really, if you tab this, you can really make it as large or small as you want. You would prefer it to be cut for you? Finished item would be best. Okay, thank you. I have 8 ready to go in my shop. I just haven't listed them. I'm still trying to figure out pricing. I don't really know what kind of pricing for something like this would be. It takes longer to cut them than I expected, but I think part of it is because I really am struggling with my machine. I'm just catching up on chats. Oh, okay. Great. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. I really appreciate it. The other thing that I found that I thought was super cool is this porcelain palette. And this is basically a porcelain bathroom accessory tray from Muji. I was able to find it online, but I was not able to find it if I searched Muji for just porcelain. I had to actually go to the bathroom section and look. But they're about $13. But the neat thing that's so clever is that it rests really nicely in the palette, in the lid. So I like using that. And they also have a soap dish version that's a little smaller, and a little cheaper. Muji. Gail, it's spelled M-U-J-I. And so this one, you know, if you just wanted part of it, if you wanted to have the wells still, then you could just use the smaller one. But I really like it a lot. I was super excited to see. I'm sort of a sucker for porcelain palettes anyway. So when I found that, I was really jazzed that it would fit the lid of the palette. Colleen, Muji is in big cities mostly. I've seen them in New York. It's a Japanese store. And they're all over the world, but they tend to be in big cities. I actually have seen a small version of one in one of the New York airports, but I don't remember which one. And the last little trick that I have is, and you may have already seen this before. It's not, sorry, I keep trying to figure out where to go with the camera, but it's basically a soap dish, but it's perfect for resting my brushes. And so I bought this at Bed Bath & Beyond for $1.99. So that's kind of my setup, basically. And so I thought I would just go ahead and start swatching these colors and talking about them a little bit. And if you guys have any questions, hopefully I can multitask a little bit to be able to help you kind of see what these are. I did have some feedback yesterday that the swatches were not big enough. Hey, Sandra. Thanks for, hi, Kimberly. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so touched. I really appreciate it. And I just lost my train of thought. But oh, somebody had mentioned that it would have been helpful to have bigger swatches, but I mostly was wanting to show you my template and show you how you can fit the swatches in the lid of the palette. So that's why I have a smaller template. I have figured out, hopefully, how to zoom, so we'll see. So hopefully I can get a little closer. But if you guys want larger swatches of the colors, if you want a stream of that, I can certainly do that as well. So just you know, I'm really new. I'm new to all of this. So but I'm super excited and happy to be here. So Muji bath accessory tray. You're exactly right, Colleen. Yep, I think that is what it's called. It is in New York City, Zandra. You could, they have, I think they have a few in New York. It's called Muji, M-U-J-I. And I have noticed before that sometimes it's on the website and sometimes it's not. So from that perspective, you know, it may just be when they're sold out. I'm not really sure. It doesn't say sold out there. It's just not there. So Eileen's asking how I got involved with this watercolor company. That is a really good question. Basically, what happened was I think it was maybe 3 years ago, my husband and I were in Poland, and we stumbled into this art supply store in Krakow that was sort of near this square. And in the back corner was this little wooden box of these watercolor cubes. And I had never heard of this brand at all. And I thought, well, that would be kind of a fun little souvenir, and it doesn't take up any room. And I can just, you know, have watercolor from Poland. And so I brought them home and didn't really think much about it. I didn't get a chance to really swatch them for a bit. And then when I did, I was really shocked that they were so great, considering what I paid for them. They weren't very expensive at all. And so, so I wanted to get more because I had, you know, I only bought a few colors, and I found that I couldn't find them here at all. And so we went back to Poland the next year, and which is just kind of a happenstance. We'd never been to Poland before, but we've been there 3 times now. In the last few years, but because my son was doing some work in Belarus, which borders Poland. And so so I went back and bought more. And then this last year, I would say maybe in the winter or spring, I was thinking about starting a business. And with anything, you usually have to, you know, try to launch 5 or 6 different things before something sticks. But in this case, I contacted the company because this was the thing that I was most excited about, and they were willing to sell to me. And so Paul's going to Poland on Sunday. Is Paul your husband, Kimberly? Hi, Lori. Anyway, so I contacted the company, and they had only been exporting for a few years, for maybe one and a half years, and didn't have anybody exporting in the United States. And so they were willing to let me buy some to sell. And so I tried them, and I started selling them May 30th of this past May 30th. And then in August, we went back to Poland, and I met the owners. So it was just kind of one of those weird things. I mean, it's kind of a bizarre story, but he's going to Gdansk at the port. I'm trying to think if we were in Gdansk this summer. I don't know that we made it to it. I don't know if there may be an art supply store in Gdansk, but I don't think we made it there. but they're certainly much less expensive buying them directly in Poland because for me, I have to pay shipping is enormously expensive, and export and duty fees are expensive, and Etsy is expensive. So anyway, if you can get them, if you have a source in Poland, it's definitely the more economical way to go. But anyway, all that is to say that I was able to sort of start this business, and I love it. And I love the company. They're great people, and I love the paints. And so I'm super excited about it. But it's brand new because, I mean, I just started May 30th, and 2 of those months I was largely out of commission because we were in Europe. So this really only launched in September, and it's really surpassed any expectations that I had. So it's been super fun. So anyway, you wanted to come to see the paints dry. So we should get to it. So this first color is a Prussian green. I think of Cece when I see this color because I know she likes turquoise. Can you see? Oh, okay. Or should I try to zoom in? Let me see if I can zoom. Here's the test, guys. Wish me luck. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And if I'm missing any questions or anything, please ask again. This is one of the Renesans brushes that I'm using. I don't currently sell this in my shop. I'm still, you know, I kind of wanted to start small and scale up. I didn't want to carry too many things that I was going to have to store, but I do really like this brush. I'm trying to decide if it's something that I should carry or not. But it's got, I don't know if you can see, it's got a super, can you see that point? We bug really well. Oh, great, a good zoom. Is that okay? Is the zoom okay? Oh, except that you can't see my actual, this is so bizarre. It's like completely opposite. There we go. Let's see if I can move that over. Sorry, guys. Thanks for being patient. I turned autofocus off because it was like doing that weird in and out business that kind of makes me nauseous. But you can't really see it very well, can you? I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I try to turn it on? We'll see. Let me know if I need to turn it off. Okay. So that was Prussian green. It looks much bluer on screen than it does in real life. It's much more of a, it looks kind of similar to a phthalo turquoise, I would say, like a Daniel Smith phthalo turquoise. The next color is helio turquoise, which is even more so, like helio and phthalo, I think, are the same term. I like to do my swatches up and down and then connect them at the top and bottom so that I have a wet bead without like a hard line. You know what? They don't make metallics, Zandra, but I did, my last order, I did buy some metallic pigment that I'm going to test and see if I see about making into watercolor pans. They don't have a lot of them though. I think just like copper, silver, gold, and bronze. Next we have permanent green. And I don't know if you can tell. Well, you're not seeing me. Sorry guys, I don't know. There we go. I don't know if you can see just how juicy these paints are, but it's kind of interesting. Hey AJ, hi Dorothy. It's been a busy day of streams for you guys. You've watched a lot of them. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Next is sap green. Cobalt green pale, which is one of my favorite. I love the cobalt greens. There are quite a few cobalt colors in this line, the greens and blues. One thing that I did that I forgot to mention that I learned from a class that I took with Danielle Donaldson. She has the Robax palette, and I don't know if you guys have seen my video on the Robax palette that I did, but one of the things that she did was she has these little clips that she puts in to mark what color she's using at the time, because there's so many colors. And so for this palette, let's see, I developed this little flag that I just put a tiny magnet and I covered it in washi tape. And then what I do is I just clip it to the pan that I'm using, that I'm on. So like for right now, I need number 6. So I just put the little flag there, and I don't know if you can tell that that's there. And then each time I move over, I just change the tab. There's another one that I've used. You know, it wouldn't be a problem if you had a limited palette, and obviously, you know, probably we all have more paints than we could ever use. But I love color, and I love having options, and they make me happy. So I don't mind finding little tips and tricks to remind me of where I'm going. I love Danielle Donaldson's work too. She is really, the precision that she paints with and draws with is really remarkable. it is a definite, she definitely has a unique style. So next we have Phthalo Green. And this is a PG7. One thing that I really like about these paints is that out of the 70 colors, 50 of them are single pigment colors. And generally, the ones that are not single pigment are some of the darker ones that aren't really going to, they're really not going to affect your mixes all that much anyway. From what I understand, the owner was telling me that it's really the light colors that the single pigment makes such a difference with. So I really like just how clean, how cleanly these mix. I know Eve Bolt talks about how, you know, it's not a bad thing to have multiple pigments. Just as long as you know kind of what you're doing with them, which I think is a good point. There are 70, Colleen. Yep. So 50 out of 70, and most of the ones that that have multiple pigments are the browns. Like Paraline Violet, I think, has quite a few pigments in them. Jean, it is so, I'm in Maine and I am amazed at how cold it is. I think between the time change, it got, it got dark it's dark by 4 o'clock here. And so between the dark and the cold, it's just been pretty hard. Next is PG50, and that is Cobalt Green Deep, which is one of my favorites. It's a beautiful color. It reminds me a little of the Cascade Green by Daniel Smith in terms of tone. It doesn't granulate like the Cascade Green does, but in terms of, I think the thing that's kind of cool about the Daniel Smith color is that it granulates and separates into the different pigments. And because this is just one pigment, it granulates, but it doesn't separate. But the tone is similar and it's really pretty. Bye, Joyce. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Next is, excuse me, Lindsay's least favorite color, which is Chromium Oxide Green. It's PG17. Let me know if you guys are struggling to see at all. I don't know what you can see versus what I can see because of the chat. I'm actually all the way down in Portland, so I'm quite a ways from Calais. That's cool that you are my neighbor. So is it 8 o'clock there or 9 o'clock? Zoom out a bit. Okay, let me try that. Thank you for the feedback, guys. I really. How's that? Is that better? Next, we have a mix. This is olive green. And it's PG7 and PO62. Hey, Judy. It's 9 there. Okay. So see, I think, honestly, Jean, I think we should be on your time zone. It's ridiculous that we are on the same time zone as my family in Indiana. And I mean, we're so far east of that. Next, we have Green Earth, which is a muddy kind of green, but it's really a useful color. I find that I use it more than I thought I would. What do I paint? I do a lot of florals. Right now, I've been on a bit of a kind of a weird kick where I'm mixing printmaking and watercolor. I'd like to do a video of that sometime. Right now, I'm painting a lot of leaves. I don't do, I really don't paint portraits at all. I wouldn't even know how to begin. But I like painting nature. I like butterflies. I like birds. I like florals. I do some abstracts, but they just kind of look like a hot mess. Honestly, they look like, they don't look like CeCee or Patty's abstracts that are so beautiful. Mine are just, they look like, I don't know, not my strength. Right. Exactly right, Jean. It will, as the days get shorter, it will start to get dark around 3:15, 3:30. And it's, the older I get, I just turned 50 this year, and the harder that is for me to deal with. It's not even the cold winter, it's the dark that I have the biggest challenge with. I am going to start trying to just get up at 5:30 or 6 just so I have more daylight, but it's hard. Gail, I find them to be quite translucent. I mean, I think it depends on the pigment, obviously, but the pigments that you would expect to be translucent are. I find them on par. I mean, I think I posted this in my Etsy store that, I'm a collector. I have Daniel Smith and Sennelier and Winsor Newton and Schminke, and I love watercolor paints, and I would say that these absolutely compare to any of those. A half-hour time zone. That would be helpful. I didn't know that such a thing existed. That would be great. If you go, Gail, I mean, I don't want to do a shameless plug, but if you go to my website, you can, or my Etsy store, you can look at the reviews, and many of the reviews say that these compare to Schminke and Daniel Smith and all of those. And that's certainly been my experience. I mean, I wouldn't sell them if I didn't think they were a good product. It's just not worth it to me it's just not worth it to me. So, from my perspective, I think it's right now, the way the system is, I've kind of cut out the retailer. So normally you have a producer who sells to a distributor, who sells to a retailer, who sells to the consumer. But in this case, because I'm importing them, I'm buying direct from the producer and selling them to the customer. I haven't sold them to art supply stores because then they would be overpriced. They would be more expensive than everything else because of how challenging it is to import them. So I think it's a great value. Oh, thanks, Gail. Thanks for visiting. Florida wants to change the time zone and not go to this one. What time zone, Eileen, what time zone does Florida want to have? I didn't get enough water on that one. This is yellow ochre. I totally agree, Janet. I grew up in Indiana and we didn't change time zones. I grew up never changing my clocks ever. And I moved after university, I moved to New York City. And I remember I was at a party in October or November. I guess it was November. And everybody was talking about changing their clocks. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I said, what do you mean you're changing your clocks? And I mean, I knew this is so how simple I was. I knew that at certain times of the year, the television shows came on at different times. So I knew that there was a shift, but I didn't really understand how it worked. And I was just utterly baffled. Yes, they do change the time now in Indiana, and my parents are so bitter about it. They just think it's ridiculous. So next, I'm going to go ahead and move my little tab. I'm on raw sienna is the next color. I don't like how that need to. Sometimes they're so juicy that they come on just as like straight from the tube when you're doing a swatch. So it is helpful to rub it on the palette a little bit before going straight to the page. Northwest of Indiana. Whereabouts, Gail? I'm from, I grew up near Columbus, Indiana, in central Indiana, south of Indianapolis, north of Louisville. And my family's still there. We're going to Indiana for Thanksgiving. And my husband's family is actually in Indiana as well. But interestingly, we didn't meet until I moved to New York City, outside of Michigan City. Oh, outlet malls in Michigan City. My aunt and uncle used to always go to Michigan City to go shopping. But I'm actually from a little town called Edinburgh, and they have outlet malls now. So it sort of put my tiny little hometown on the map. It was, when I was growing up, it was, the population was 1,500 people. And we had a Dairy Queen that was open 3 months a year. And that was it. And now that we have the outlets, everybody knows where I'm from. It's the strangest thing. So that last color was orange ochre. And now we're going to burnt sienna. And I'm running out of room on my palette, so I'm going to pull this little soap dish, which nests, incidentally, nests perfectly in the tray. Yeah, Columbus is really far from Michigan City. I really like the burnt sienna. It is, it's not a strong color. You know, a lot of burnt siennas are really strong, but I love the way, I just love the way it behaves. And I think the orange ochre and the red ochre are strong enough colors that if you wanted a really strong mix, you could get it. And next we have red ochre. Which is another pretty unique color. I'm not sure really how that would correspond to like which Daniel Smith color. It's a PR 101. A lot of these coming up are PR 101. The burnt sienna is PBR 7. Gail, how tall are you? That is so funny. Short Hoosiers unite. Jean, I like the White Knight paints quite a lot too. I think they're great. I think they're a great paint. 6. So next we have Mars Bordeaux, which I don't know if you watched the first video that Lindsay did where she talked about Potter's Pink. And it kind of created a run on Potter's Pink. I was sold out for a long time of that color, and it is a beautiful color. I would say Mars Bordeaux is like a deeper first cousin to Potter's Pink. I like it a lot, and I like very much how Mars Bordeaux, Mars Brown, and Potter's Pink, which are the next 3 colors that I'm going to do, how they all work together. Gail, 5 foot. That I would dream of being 5 foot. For the longest time I was 4'10" and 3/8, and believe you me, when you're 4'10", that 3/8 matters. But I had a back issue where I fractured some vertebrae, and so I've shrunk, which is quite painful when you're already 4'10" and 3/8. You don't have much room to shrink. So I think that was almost as painful as the back pain itself. So yes, it's always interesting to me to buy petite clothes, because petite clothes are made for people who are 5'3" and under, but that's like 6 inches taller than me. So you can imagine with that, I have a lot of hemming to do. Looks similar to the English red of White Knights. Which one, Jean? Thanks, Gail. I appreciate it. I'm actually so much better than I was a few years ago. I definitely have improved a lot, so I'm not complaining. The last one you just swatched, 3, 6, 7. That's Mars Bordeaux. I have White Knights. Do you want me to see if I can compare it? Let me go see if I can put my hand on it real quick. Let's see. Do I have a piece of paper? Here's a piece of paper. Mars Bordeaux. Yes, the Renaissance paints that I'm swatching now are from Poland. The White Knights, I think, are from St. Petersburg, Russia, I believe. Let me see if I have English. I do have English red. Let me just check. I'll just swatch that real quick. I have my white nights in a pencil tin. That way I can fit them all in. White. Speaking of metallic, Sandra was asking about metallic. White Nights has some metallic paints. It is similar, Jean, I would say. So it's a little more orange, I would, on the, sorry about the autofocus. It's a little more orange than the Mars Bordeaux. Let me just swatch the Mars next to it. It actually reminds me of the red ochre. This one's the Mars Bordeaux. See, it's quite a bit pinker. It would remind me a little bit of Daniel Smith's Indian Red, maybe. I would say the red ochre might be closer to the English red. That's the red ochre. So, but I don't know if you can see, if it's going to show up, how that granulates. But it's just a gorgeous color. I love it so much. And I don't tend to be big earth. Like, I love blues and, you know, I love the palettes that both Patty and CeCee use. So I don't use a ton of earth colors, but I really like this this section. I've just lost where I am. Okay, so now we're at Mars Brown, which is similar. Honestly, I don't know that you need Mars Bordeaux and Mars Brown because they are really close in color. I don't really see a huge difference. That's why. Hey, Rosemary. Yay, you made it. Rosemary was one of the 2 gals that tuned in yesterday. She and Dryad were my first 2 guinea pigs. The same row column as they are in my palette. I'm not sure I understand, Jean, what you mean. Okay, so next we're going to Potter's Pink, and this is the one that has gotten a lot of press. I think mostly because Potter's Pink is a fairly uncommon color. And I have to say our Potter's Pink is really beautiful. I love it. It re-wets really nicely. I have Potter's Pink and Daniel Smith, and it can be a little hard. I think I need to maybe add glycerin to it or something. You see that? See that granulation? I mixed Potter's Pink with cerulean blue, and oh my goodness, it was so pretty. The way it just, Potter's Pink makes everything granulate really in a really neat way. Next we have Brown Matter, which is a really intense color. I don't know if you can see that. And it's actually kind of a unique pigment. We have two paints with the same pigment, and I don't know of a lot of companies that carry it. It's PBR 25. And the Brown Matter and the Polish Brown both use it. I don't use Brown Matter a whole lot, although I have used it this fall in painting leaves. It's a good leaf color. The Potter's Pink, Gail, the Potter's Pink does look really similar to those two. I painted it pretty dark, that's pretty much mass tone. It looks more varied in real life than it does on camera. Like if I were gonna, I would get Potter's Pink, and then I would probably get Mars Bordeaux. I don't use Mars Brown much at all. Next we have Burnt Umber, which is a PBR 7. And the last one in this row is Polish Brown, and that was the other one that was that unique pigment. And I've got pretty much straight from the tube there. They re-wet. It does take a little while for these paints to set up. They do set up much more than, like, say, an M Graham, which uses even more honey. But I would recommend, if you're pouring them into pans, to do it in layers. So like do a very thin layer and then let that dry, and then do another layer and let that dry. Because I didn't do that. I just filled them up. And I was amazed at how level they got right away. But it did take quite a while for them to firm up, which is how I prefer to paint. So that was the PBR 25 Polish Brown. This is another Potter's Pink. Next we have Raw Umber, and I really do like this color a lot. I'm just gonna wipe my palette real quick. I would say this Raw Umber would almost, in its diluted form, almost look like a buff titanium. It can be really pale. I don't know if I can demonstrate that or not, but it's a really good color. I like it a lot. I like the tone of it. It's kind of a cool brown. See if I can get that even lighter. You see that? Oh, you love the brush, Rosemary. Oh, mass tone, Jean. Yeah, I still haven't decided if I'm going to carry the brushes or not. It's mostly an issue of finding the packaging to ship them. where they're going to be secure and not get bent up. So many things that I know nothing about that I'm trying to learn. They are porcelain. They're excuse me. They're trays from the Japanese store Muji, M-U-J-I. Next we have sepia. Too bad Patty and Cece aren't here. I don't know if you guys watch their videos, but there was a funny story about sepia. I can't even think of sepia without thinking of them now. They do come with brush protectors, but I don't find them to be particularly secure. And so I don't know, I would hate to kind of to sell something that's not going to get there properly. I mean, I've tried some of them, and even coming from Poland to me, sometimes the bristles can be bent up, and so it's just not. When you get a good one, they're really amazing, but I just don't know that I feel comfortable. We're just still trying to kind of work out the shipping kinks, I guess. Next is Van Dyke Brown, and this is a color that I don't use much at all. Even before I had Renaissance paints, I didn't have, I mean, there may be times when I had it in a set, but it's just not a color that I go for. But if you did a lot of animals and things like that, it might be helpful. Next, we have Perylene Violet. This is an interesting color because in the pan, it looks kind of red. You can't really tell once they're dark like that. But then when you swatch it out, it definitely has more of a blue cast. So it's definitely kind of an odd duck. I do think that when you get into some of these darker colors, they just, because they're so transparent, they all look the same. They all just kind of look dark, and so you really do need to swatch. You use it as a mixer. What do you use as a mixer, Gail? Or Rosemary, I'm sorry. Payne's Gray is next. I like Payne's Gray a lot. One thing that's interesting that I found out, actually through Patty, she used Payne's Gray in one of her paintings in the Renaissance, and she has the pans. And the pan formula is in the Payne's Gray. It's not this way with all of the colors, but the Payne's Gray definitely looks different between pans and tubes. And let me get that swatch and I'll show you. So this one is a tube, and this one's the pan. And I don't know if you can tell. But it's just something to keep in mind. If there's, yeah, it's just something to keep in mind, I guess. I don't really know. I know that the tube paints have more, a little more honey in them than the pans. But I don't really understand why the pigments would look different. It's just something I need to maybe ask the company. Yes, it would definitely be more on the blue side of things, Rosemary. I definitely think it's a blue gray for sure. Next we have mineral gray. Which is another unique color. I don't see a lot of watercolor companies offering grays like this, and I do think it's a useful color to have. Next, we're coming down on the home stretch. We've got neutral gray, which is white. I think this is, for someone who doesn't really like a lot of earth tones, I think this is quite a pretty color, but I think it's because I really like granulation, and I like the way this looks. Mars Black is another one that we have that I really like, the granulation. Next we have Ivory Black, which is another one I don't use much. And Mars Black, which is, of the three blacks, probably the one that I like the most because of the granulation. I tend to move my board when I paint swatches, and I'm trying not to move it so that you guys can see. So when I'm doing the top and bottom, it's kind of wonky. Are all neutrals gray in every make of paint? I don't know, Rosemary. I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean? And next we have Lamp Black, which is super dark. And that's it. That's the end of the line. With April saying you're going to Muji. I just bought 2 more of those palettes last week, so I know they had them. And I think I want to say they were $13.50. I did. I'm going to be offering that stencil in my shop. I will be listing that tomorrow. It's right here. I don't know. You can see. Gail, when I found them, I looked under porcelain and did not see them. And then I looked in bathroom accessories, and it was, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was basically an accessory. It was a bathroom tray. There is a round one, that's true, but there was a soap dish, which I did not see this last time that I looked, and then the long tray that was $13.50. I don't think you'll find it if you search. I think you have to like go, they don't have a ton of product. So you can probably just go and search through the bathroom section. Try doing it with the stamp material with my Cameo, but the material doesn't stamp well. Janet, do you mind posting a comment with your Twitter? I don't have your Twitter account. I'm not on Twitter much. I tried doing it with the stamp material with my Cameo. I think I missed part of the chat because I don't know what Jean is talking about. Okay, I'll find you. Did you find it, Gail? Really? I don't even know. How does Twitter work? Like, I'm not on Instagram, but I don't, and I've been on Twitter, but I've never really seen much that it does. I will get on. I will get on. I mean, I'm already on. I just need to remember what my sign on is. Gail, I'm glad you found it. It's really, I have to say, I love this little system I have with these palettes. I love that they're so thin, and I love that they lock into place. That's the thing that was such a shock to me, is just how, I don't know if you can see, but if you can hear it. So it's locked, and then you just put the porcelain in the top. Let's see if I can zoom out. And you've got, 70 colors in a very small footprint. And you could even have as many as 110 colors, because in this one where I took the rail out, I have 55 colors in here, which, let's be clear, nobody needs this many paints. I don't want people yelling at me for having too many paints, but it's pretty amazing that you can, my husband works remotely, so he can work anywhere, and so we do a lot of visiting family and travel, and so I'm not always in my studio, and so having just a really thin, small footprint to take has been great. You like it better than Instagram, really? Oh, I'm not on Facebook much at all. I do have my business account on Facebook, but it kind of makes me crazy, honestly. But yes, I will go on Twitter. And I still prefer the size of my fusion wells. What? Why? I feel I feel like it's interesting that, that people are always talking about, you can mix these colors and you shouldn't have, that many colors. But I mean, why not? Like, I kind of feel like there are two hobbies. One is painting. The other is paint acquisition. And sometimes they intersect and sometimes they don't. Like, I just like to collect paints. Go put your head in the bucket. I like to collect pens and paper. Oh gosh, Galena, you and me both. I love all things analog. I love paper. I love journals. I love pens. I love paint. You just like to buy. I've heard that about you, Eileen. I've heard your studio is epic. In the scheme of things, like, really, there's so many worse things we could be spending money on. I don't know. I like it. And I think part of what I like so much about watercolors is that I don't have to worry about it going bad. Like with acrylic paints and some of the other ones, they get kind of funky over time. And it feels like watercolors just are sort of indefinite. You don't spend money on crap anymore. I'm so glad to hear it. That's so good. She has a warehouse, not a studio. She didn't need the money to look at her hauls. Some people, I don't know. I think I just need to develop a thicker skin, maybe. I mean, I haven't had any negative comments at all, but and I think part of it may be because Lindsay is so successful and she has so many subscribers that people just say really mean things to her. Yeah, Xandra has some really epic hauls, I think. I really like her hauls too. Would you guys be interested? I have a couple of paints in here that I wouldn't mind topping off. Would you guys want to see what they look like coming out of the tube? Would that be helpful? Okay, let me go grab my box. One thing I do love about these paints is that the swatch is actually on each label. So let's see if I can do this. Nope. So that's Helio Cerulean, and it's the actual photograph of the swatch on the paint. And Raw Sienna. Mars Bordeaux. Cobalt Blue Deep. I don't know that any other, I think maybe Core does something a little similar, but not the size that this company does. I just think that's a really neat touch. I won't fill them all, but I will fill a couple just so you can see kind of how they look coming out of the tube, because I was really surprised. Let's see, I'm trying to see what would be a good one. What about maybe transparent yellow? You just zoom in again. You're welcome, Rosemary. No. See how liquidy it is? And then it's almost like it levels out. One thing that was really cool when I went to Poland, I was able to see them filling the paints, which is another thing I wanted to talk about really quick. They changed the way they fill their pans. Can you see that? But it will set up, Eileen. It will look really, I mean, it's really, they're amazing to me. Right, you don't have to poke it. So the way that they fill their pans now, they used to fill them in such a way that the pan shrunk quite a bit. And so I've gotten some people have been concerned that their paints aren't full. And they've actually changed that so that now what they do is they do what Schminke does, which is they fill each pan by hand and we'll let it sit for like 2 or 3 weeks and then fill it again and let it sit for 2 to 3 weeks and fill it again, sometimes as many as 4 times, depending on which pigments shrink more than the others. So they are phasing out the pans that were shrunk in the pans, but they're going to use up what they have. But in the meantime, they have not increased the price of the new pans. because they're going to wait until everything is the same, even though it costs a lot more labor. Hey, CB, thanks for coming. A lot more labor to do it the new way. So some of your pans may look really full, and then some of them might not. And so a lot of people have been concerned about that. And I just want you to know that that's why. So that's the story there. I think I might even have an example. These are the pan sets. And so if you look at Venetian yellow is one that's a big culprit. You can see that it's quite shallow. And then the new way that they're doing it, here's a cerulean. You can see that it's all the way to the top. So just that's the story with that. Your set, AJ, your set has some paints that aren't full. It was interesting when I bought mine from Poland, 3 years ago, they were all that way. They were all short. And I still haven't, I mean, this is my original, some of these are the original pans, and you can tell, I mean, I haven't hit bottom on any of them. And I paint with them a lot. So they do listen. And, that was something that I've been amazed at how responsive they are to any sort of consumer feedback. They've been great. And I think the other thing is you're getting such a good value anyway that it's hard to beat these prices. Shauna, they do have dot cards, but they're not available to consumers yet. Thank you so much for saying that, AJ. I really appreciate that. I hope that's how people feel, because that's how I feel. The dot cards are really great. But at this point, what they're only, I don't know exactly how challenging it is for them to manufacture them. And so they're in limited supply and not available to consumers, but I've communicated that I would like to offer those in my shop. Also, I've had some customers come and say that they wanted to know what these colors look like next to one another, or if you look on my Etsy store and you scroll through the photos, I have larger swatches of all of the paints, but I'm happy to swatch out other colors if it would be helpful. I love to swatch, so it's not a pain for me at all to, it might delay your order a little bit just so that I have time to set up the swatch and photograph it and send it to you, but I'm happy to do that. I know, Rosemarie. I feel bad. I know that I have had I will ask my distributor or my exporter if there are distributors in UK. I don't know that there are. I know there is one in Germany. I did set up a set. I have sets of 24 in my shop and sets of 12. And then I was getting so many requests for completer set. And so the completer set is quite a bit, it's a set of 30 with a palette, and it's quite a bit more expensive than the set of 24. And the reason for that is that the sets of 24 come prepackaged to me from Poland and cost me less than the individual pans. And so that's why I can only charge $58 for the sets of 24. And then the completer sets, I think, are 110 for 30 colors. So it's, you know, quite a bump. But I know that I've had so many customers who want the full complete set, which I totally understand. I wanted the full complete set too. Yeah, AJ, I know a lot of people don't, you know, are surprised by that. And people, I also get customers asking to make substitutions on the sets, and I can't do that because they come to me prepackaged and sealed, and it's not cost effective for me to be able to do that. I wish I could, because I understand, especially colors like white and black, a lot of painters don't want them, but you're already getting, you know, a pretty good value. So hopefully that makes up for it. Well, I'm at an hour and a half, which is 30 minutes longer than I expected to be. And thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. Rosemary, there are 54 pan colors. So there are 54 in the line of pans. And then there are 70 tube colors. Oh, thanks, Janet. That means a lot coming from you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jean. And please don't hesitate ever to write me if you guys have any questions. I'm on Etsy all the time, so I love to answer questions. So just don't hesitate to ask. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Thanks, Sandra. The brushes. You think the brushes are worth carrying, AJ? Bye, Jean. Bye, Colleen. That's okay, CB. I'm glad you made it at all. That's awesome. Good night, Eileen. Bye, guys. I'll keep that in mind, AJ. Thanks so much.